Is there still fuel in the tank? Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Market House. I'm Maggie Lake, and today I'm talking markets with Tony Greer, editor of the Navigator. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hello, Maggie. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. A great day to catch up with you because there's a lot of sort of movement in the market. We had that softer than expected reading on wholesale inflation, a monster rally in Oracle. And then we had the S&P hit a record, 10-year bond yield backed off. So it seemed like it was kind of a sweet spot for everybody. However, we did start to see some of those gains fade a bit for stocks. So I'm just curious what you make of it all 10 days into September.
Well, I think I heard you ask if there's anything left in the tank
Yeah.
and I'm assuming you're referring to this bull market that continues to march on. And I would argue, Oracle is evidence that there is plenty left in the tank, right? A 5 sigma rally in like a .com bubble stock, a 40% rally, all of a sudden the thing is trading like a penny stock, and I think that's what the bull market, unfortunately, that's what the bull market will teach you if you take shots at it while it's, all quiet. If the market isn't advancing at a fast rate, all of the bears come out and get very lippy that it's about to go down because they like to sound smart, and doom sells, right? Like people consume doom like mad. The reality is that price action doesn't match, because no matter what, the bear side of this equation doesn't get paid. We just had a couple of days last week or 2 weeks ago where we had like 5 consecutive negative days in the S&P, and the sum total of the pullback from peak to trough was like 1.4%, right? That is not a market that a bear market trader can survive in or trade. So, you're down to being either right in your positioning or not having a lot to do in this bull market, right? Like there's not much to do. You don't just pile into the NASDAQ at 24K without a reason. So, you have to have thought out when markets give you a chance in separate sectors. When markets give you a chance to get in, you got to take those chances now. The S&P continues to show us. I mean, I have a really long positive tailwinds checklist for the S&P that doesn't seem to go away. We've got rates falling. The Fed is going to ease. Technicals couldn't be more powerful. Price action couldn't be more powerful. Earnings season was good. Great leadership. The AI trade. I mean, there's so many reasons to stay bullish, in my opinion. So that's the way that I'm leaning. And I think it can continue given all these tailwinds. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love the way that you frame that because, listen, it is really easy to get sucked into the negativity. And I'm not discounting it, but it does sort of seem to overwhelm. I think because we're all so nervous that some of these gains and some of the profits that people are looking at in their accounts, right? Whether it's 401, whether it's your trading account, they're just really afraid it's going to turn tail and disappear. And Oracle's a great example because I think that you see that kind of gain. I mean, these numbers, I couldn't believe it. I thought I misread it at first when I saw how much it was up. You're going to either have it silence the skeptics of AI, or I'm sure we're going to see a ton of stuff that has people saying, look, this is just evidence about what an insane bubble, a speculative, frothy bubble we're in. How do you know which it is?
I keep checking the market diagnostics and making sure that everything is okay for a bull market to continue. And I'm not an economist. Let's remember that. First one to say.
Or a biologist.
Or a biologist. I have no idea what is going to happen with the economy, and I don't care. What I do care about is that rates are falling now. The 10-year is kind of breaking an interim range, which gives it a little more room to fall. The stock market apparently loves it. It's no coincidence that all of a sudden with lower rates that technology just perked up, right? And we had this great leadership with gold miners, uranium miners, industrial miners, the 3 best performing sectors of the S&P that I watch, right? All these big industrial sectors. And now you've got tech catching up because rates are falling. Nothing has changed about the metal trade. There's no offer right now in gold miners. There's no offer. There's no seller. You can't buy them at any price. You wake up every day, they go up 5%, and that's it. I never thought I'd see the day, but that's what's going on. And I've got to respond to that. So with all of these positive stories in the market, like you're not going to catch me getting bearish. And then you got sentiment, Maggie. The most important thing to me, if you want to worry me, tell me that sentiment is pinned at extreme greed for weeks now. If that happens, I get worried. Where is sentiment right now with the S&P printing the all-time high? CNN Fear and Greed this morning was 51 neutral. There's no froth out there. There's nobody that's like, we're making so much money in stocks. This is amazing. There's none of that. The portfolio managers are all behind. European portfolio managers don't know where to start trying to make a comeback toward 2025. I think they're all hiding under the desk, hoping not to get fired in December, quite honestly. So we'll see what happens with that kind of shift. But they're all so far behind this market that there's not much to do. Brent Donnelly had a great chart this morning in his note, which highlighted how the United States is basically 75% of the MSCI World Stock Index now. And it's like, look what's going on in the world. NVIDIA, back now at $178, has a $4.3 trillion market cap, which is bigger than the GDP of Japan and closing in on the GDP of Germany. So when one stock has got that kind of firepower, like, of course, the rest of Europe is falling away. Their biggest market cap stock in the whole game is like a $300 billion pharma company, right? So it's like they're deindustrializing. You look at the headlines and they're protesting over there. Like, of course, the United States is running away with the entire global share of stocks in the MSCI World Index. So I don't know. Those are just kind of some topical things that kind of wake up and hit me in the head sometimes and say, yeah, of course the S&P is 6,500 on its way to 7K. Like, this makes all the sense in the world to me. So
yeah, no, great stuff. And Sam on Substack. Hey, everybody, by the way, joining us live on Substack and YouTube. Great to see you. We just dove right into it because I'm so curious to get Tony's thoughts. Sam, I think along the lines of what you were just saying, but I want to ask the question, GDX up 30% since August 1. Are miners due for a pullback, or will they continue to hang out in overbought territory if gold pushes higher? I mean, based on what you just said, it looks like you don't think there's going to be a pullback. Would you hope for one to make it feel a little less?
I said right now what's going on is they're going up 5% a day, and that's it, right? So do I think there's going to be? Of course, there's going to be a pullback. It might be from 100 in GDX, right? We may trade offerless just to trade up to 100, go straight into a parabola for a month and a half, 2 months. Would not shock me. There's no seller of gold, right? We broke out through 3,500 and haven't really even dipped, right? So we broke out through 3,500. We motored all the way to 3,680 so far at the highs in gold. Haven't encountered any sellers, haven't encountered any resistance. We're breaking out to 4K. Same thing in GDX. We just took out the 2011 highs at 67. And it looks like it still wants to go through there. I mean, I thought that they were going to put up some resistance at those old resistance level. Went through them like shit through a goose. Like they weren't even there. Like they weren't even there, the old highs. So when a market does that, I got to sit up in my chair and say, oh, okay, well, this is going to continue. There's not enough gold stocks for the money that wants to own them right now. And eventually, if gold runs into a level where there's somebody that dares sit there and says, okay, I'm going to let the market have some, then maybe there's a steep pullback in gold miners, but not until then. It feels to me like gold is going to trade 3,750, 3,800 before it backs off at all. Like before you even see a $25 dip, it looks like it's got like another 150, 200 bucks more to the upside. Just judging on the pace, judging on the price action, the pace has been very, very steady. Like pullbacks are like $5 and $10, and then it's off again. So that's what I think. And so the gold miners, the only thing to do, like I said, the only thing you can trade, the only trade to have on in gold miners is I bought them a while ago, and I'm trying to decide if I see something that tells me to sell them right now, plus 1%, 2%, 3% a day. Why sell that? Right? That can go on for months.
Yeah. And we always talk about this too. It's really hard when you're sitting with winners, how do you know how to ride them as opposed to start to take some profits? When you look at this, it seems like we sort of mentioned the sweet spot because you've got bond yields moving down. Clearly there are some concerns about the economy. Braden asked, do the recent BLS revisions worry you at all?
No, we're going through a regime change in so many ways right now, between, with the tariff platform that Trump is starting the US on, a lot of things are changing here. The BLS story is almost too deep to go into, right? I kind of just have to take it at face value. Yes, it's telling us that the economy is weaker than we thought. Yeah, that's kind of in line with a lot of the other data that we're seeing. So it shouldn't really shock anybody. And I don't know, it just seems to mean that when we see data like that, bonds rally even more sharply, right? So we get lower yields when we see those signs of a weaker economy. And that's going to be the give and take right now. While the Fed is easing, we're expecting to see a weaker economy. And then at some point, the data is going to level off and we're going to, take the pressure off the Fed from having to lower rates. But I mean, you saw Trump was out this morning right after PPI came out, much lower than expected, right? That was a total with no headline inflation whatsoever. Trump came right after too slow. And he doesn't even call him Jerome Powell anymore. He calls him too slow. Calls him too slow because he's been too slow to lower rates. So now, I've been saying this before, whether I like it or not, Trump is going to get rates lower come hell or high water because he said so. And don't fight it. He's out there doing it. The guy's in charge right now. So don't fight it. It's going to happen. Think about what it's going to mean and make those decisions accordingly. I think that's the only thing you can do.
The inflation data made things interesting because I think the concern that I was hearing from people is, okay, the Fed will likely one way or the other have to lower those rates. But if the economy, if there's any sign that it's mixed, you could see bond yields go up instead of down. They don't get what they want. But now the inflation data is falling into place. It seems like maybe that risk is receding.
That's exactly right, Maggie. Today, I wrote about it on Monday. I was like, this is PPI, CPI week. We have to get through this week. The stock, bond, and gold rallies have to get through this week unscathed. What does that mean? We can't have an inflation flash. We cannot have a hot flash of inflation this week because rates will probably, like you said, have to retreat higher. And that would probably put a damper on the stock rally, obviously the bond rally, and it might even put a dent in this gold breakout. You never know. So seeing as that was the risk and it's sort of halfway come and gone now, it's CPI due tomorrow. It's not likely to come in super hot with PPI coming in, at a total miss. So I think we're through. And I think that's what the market's saying. But, he's got a lot of help from Oracle, but the leadership is still there. Gold miners are rallying. Momentum stocks are rallying today. Oil services stocks are rallying. The whole natural resources trade is buoyant today and leading the market a couple of ticks higher. So I don't know. I still think things look like they're in good shape. I think yields are going lower, and I think we made it through inflation week.
Yeah, it's funny because we haven't talked about landings in a long time. We there was a period where we were hotly debating whether it's a hard landing, a soft landing. It sort of seems like if the economy doesn't fall apart, but inflation's subdued enough to let yields move lower, that's a positive all around. When do you get worried if you see the economy start to decelerate? Does that create an earnings question? Is that what would make you sit up and say, maybe I'm going to take some of these winners off my?
I'm more looking for sentiment signals now, Maggie. I'm more looking for people giddy about the stock market. If people get giddy about the stock market or they're borderline giddy about gold miners. They are giddy about the gold breakout. That's just not slowing the market down at all. But if I see, kind of hubris and equity length, then I'd get worried, right? CTAs are now max long stocks, right? That's fine. You can draw a bullseye on that position and say, okay, well, they're going to have to get out sometime, but they also need a catalyst to force them out on the downside. And we're not seeing that at all. So they're long for the right reasons. And as long as sentiment isn't hooray S&P, the stock market can continue to grind higher. And all those CTAs, you know what they are? Long and right. Right? That happens. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have, like my famous partner at Goldman Sachs once said, sometimes you don't have to be so worried about obvious trades being correct. There's a little bit to that, right? Sometimes, when the trade, it looks like stocks are going up to me, Mag. I think we can get into this and make money. Sometimes that works.
Yeah, we always want to make it more complicated, but sometimes it does. Just to finish off the Fed discussion, a couple questions coming in about that. Ian asking, and maybe it doesn't matter to you. Do you see a 25 or 50 basis point cut this month? And does it matter?
I don't really think that matters. I would love to see him kick it off with a 50 basis point and see the volatility. I think I got a feeling that we're kind of more leaning towards 25s going along. So I would love to see him start off with 50 basis points and just kind of cause some volatility and shake up the bond market, see who expected what. I'm not worried about, though. What I'm concentrating on is the bull market in stocks. That's a real thing, right? That is a real thing. Earnings are coming out. Earnings are better. Stocks are making new highs. Sectors are breaking out. We no longer have the sectors that we can go beat on. Cannabis and solar stocks, they go down. They went down every day for 3 years. That's over.
Yeah, wait, right? Talk to me about cannabis, because this came up recently and I was like, we remember we used to get questions every time we were on about cannabis. Like weekly, we used to get cannabis questions. Right. And then literally nobody talked about it for like 2 years. Or at least. So are you playing again in that? Do you like it? Is it a breakout reel? What's happening?
I got Navigator subscribers into the MSOS trade for a like 36% winner in like 2 weeks, and we got out. Right? I'm just taking the trade off the table. I'm taking what the market gives me. I said this can go from 3 to 6. It went from 3 to 6. And we're done now, right? So I'm still watching it because I do believe what you observed, Maggie, is the most important part about the cannabis rally is that it was left for dead, right? Nobody cared after a while. I didn't even care myself. I used to force myself to type up the letters to make to look at the chart. I stopped caring so much. But that's how you know that it's left for dead, right? And then we saw the double bottom at $2 in that sector, and it was like, whoa, something's changed here. A double bottom, like this thing hasn't double bottomed in forever, right? So now we knew that changed. It went up against the backdrop of Trump talking about rescheduling it, which seems obvious, which seems, pending. And we have to see how the market reacts to that, right? At one point, I thought it was going to be, we're just going to rally until they reschedule it. And that's going to be the top of the move and it's going to sell off again. Now it doesn't feel. Now I'm not so sure. We rallied hard up to $6 in MSOS, backed off a little bit. We're still in a position where we can attack the upside of this breakout. So now I'm starting to think that when they do reschedule it, maybe some good news from the corporations in the industry will start to beef up the sector a little bit more. Once they get their hands on realistic banking, I think it changes everything for the whole sector, right?
And that hasn't happened yet. That's what I was waiting for. When it first started moving, that's the first thing I looked at, saying, wait a minute, did that change? And that's still looming. So maybe this is a stair step rather type of situation. But I like that you're being explaining that you're being tactical about it. That should be helpful for folks who are, getting kind of, if they're interested in the momentum, getting back in. It sounds like you're cautious enough to be.
Well, it's the kind of thing, Maggie, where, I'm still trying to put up a trade P&L on the year, and it's hard to find 35% trades. And when you find them and they happen to pan out in a couple of weeks, what's the upside from there? You know what I mean? Like, from there, you got to say, okay, now we got to get through all these resistance levels. We're going to get rescheduled, but I can't wait for that. So I'm just going to take my profit and run and keep my eye on it because I could always buy it back. Right.
Yeah. Couple people, it's interesting because it's kind of related, but we're shifting back to the Fed again. A lot of people asking about does it sell on the news? And it's a little bit where we're talking about cannabis. When it reschedules, is that already priced in and it sells on the news? We're gonna have to wait and see that. What about the Fed? Does it feel like stocks that are very enthusiastic about that rate cut? Does it feel like there's a potential to sell the news if we get one, even if it's 50 or?
Yeah, there may be a sell the news fact, but
MK asking, by the way.
Yeah, but sure, we could be set up for some sell the news factoids in a couple of different individual stocks. Sure. What tends to happen in that situation? They back up into the range, they back up to within their trend, and that's where the longer term buyers step in again. So I have a feeling that that's what the bull market offers you, right? If you get chances to get in, you better take them because the traffic starts to come in behind. Like my point being, I guess I made a good observation a couple of weeks ago where everybody wanted to be bearish the S&P and we had these 3 little dips, but I made the observation like, look, we're getting these dips in the S&P. They are consecutively shallower, right? Higher lows we're making. What does that tell me? It means that there's buyers lined up out the door. So we can't get a steep dip in the market because everybody wants to buy the thing. So the first buyers are getting rewarded and the guys last in line are getting bupkis, right? So now that, I'm saying, my point is, now that the trend is developing, if you want to get into this market and profit, you got to stick bids in on every dip. Otherwise, the plain vanilla guys that are trying to put trillions of dollars into the market at this price, they're going to get their stock first and you're not.
Yeah.
So, that's just what it looks like. And then all of a sudden you get Oracle to force everybody's hand to the upside. You got to get every short out of the NASDAQ trade now, and then we'll see what happens from there. What's the next shoe to drop? You tell me.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I think there must be some robust conversations happening around all of the desks when it comes to some of the AI, narratives that were out there. By the way, Oracle finishing, hanging on, 36%, best day since 1992. Dominus is joining us, says hi from a Brit in rural Spain. Lovely.
Oh, very
hi,
cool.
Dominus.
I'm an Anglophile. What's he got for us?
I don't know. Put a question in if you want, Dominus. Tell us. I hope I'm saying your name right. And where in Spain? I've been through a lot of Spain. I got some friends in Spain. I traveled around there a lot. Would love to know where you are. So Biz Martinez, we feel you, Biz, on that cannabis trade. Tony, I know you can relate to this. Cannabis trade veteran here. Did great in 2020 and bag held since 2021. It's relying on regulation. My soul has been crushed.
I'm sorry. Don't be a bag holder.
Yeah, don't be. But hang in there. Maybe it's still going to come out right for you.
Oh, there's every chance. There's every chance that this sector comes back to life. I wouldn't write it off, Maggie, with Richard Branson's money. I wouldn't write off the cannabis trade. So
plus, sometimes I feel like if you've hung in this long,
that's for sure.
You get that banking news. You don't want to get out right before that happens. Someone asking, I'm going to find you in a minute, about uranium. Doug, do uranium stocks have the same legs as gold? This is another one of those that we used to talk about ad nauseum. More because of a momentum thing. And Jared had that great line about a lot of a-holes in the trade. But I feel like it's broadened out and it's so much more a part of that sort of energy AI, infrastructure build out. How are you? I can't remember if we've talked about uranium, though. How are you thinking about that?
Yes, I am. This is one of the sectors, Maggie, that I am out of the market wishing I was in, right? We played uranium successfully, knock on wood, from the long side before. We got out when it got below the moving averages. And then all the big headlines came out. I'm trying to think of when that was. So I'm sort of saying I was out before it doubled from 20 to 40, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been spectating ever since. I just haven't been able to get back into it because it's only grazed the 50-day once. Like, I was kind of looking for a much deeper pullback. But what's going on, I think, is that the fact that there is an actual, the massive inventory shortage of uranium kind of shows its head every once in a while, where the price of this cash uranium will spike up. Then you see all the good news that's going on in the stocks and the good performance and good reaction to earnings that they've had. And you're like, oh man, this is real, And I think that the deficit in the uranium market is one of the things that's going to go from slowly to suddenly becoming a big effing deal. You know what I mean? Where we talk about it, and then all of a sudden we'll find somebody that, doesn't have enough uranium purchased, and there'll be a short squeeze in the market, and you'll see a really relevant move. It's tough for me to get a handle on uranium pricing because it's not as it's not as transparent as, for example, the crude oil market or natural gas. Yeah. It's tough to follow. But the names in the sectors are all reporting great earnings. The names in the sector are reporting great earnings. It's one of the best performing sectors in the market right now. And I think telling you something that you have to be in this one for the long haul. And that I kind of believe it's literally on the top of my list of the long-term trades that I want to be in. And I'm not in it right now. So I got to wait for a dip and see what happens. But that is a ferocious and real bull market. If you ask me, got the highest settlement price of all time in URA today, which is kind of.
Yeah. There's just so much to talk about at the intersection of energy and AI. I'm sort of obsessed with it myself. And we're going to continue to hit on that. So this is a slight shift in gears, but I'm really glad we got this question because it was on my list as well. No one knows thyself asking, I'm interested to hear Tony's take on lumber. Looks like it's about to test major support. I wonder what that will mean for home builders.
It's one of the things that is it's just a tailwind for home builders, right? More margin built into their home construction matrix. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I think it's a great setup for them. If anybody, right? I don't think it's a great thing for the economy, but it's probably a net positive for home builders. That's one of the trades that I'm in. I'm trading the technical blue sky breakout from, I guess, around 104 when ITB broke up above its moving averages again. It traded up to 116, trading like 113 now. I think if rates continue to meander lower without having too many spikes along the way, will be really good for home construction and home builders. So I think the sector, I mean, it's making all the right moves. In XHB, Home Depot earnings were good. The stock looks fine. In ITB, if you're just following the nail bangers, like the nail banger charts are phenomenal. Like Pulte Homes, Lennar, DR Horton, they all look great. So it's a question of whether we're able to keep the rate train going south, in my opinion. And so as long as, the risk in this Trump demanding that we get lower rates is that he's liable to spike the back end, which is probably not going to be good for refinancing, right? If 30-year mortgage rate goes a lot higher, the curve steepens, et cetera. So I'm watching for that as the risk, but absent that happening, I can stay positive. I mean, home builders are a really good secular trending sector in America. And I think that can continue, especially with low lumber costs, cheap gas. I mean, they're set up for success.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I like that. There's a lot of pent up demand. I'm always curious because I've also had people worry that they're attracted to it. We saw a big drop in mortgage rates the other day too on some week date. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't today's. They're probably down again, but worry that if there is a sort of artificial force lowering of rates, does that just drive home prices up? Is that a worry? It's so tricky, some of these feedback loops.
It is, but if rates, yeah, possibly. If rates go nosediving, then yeah, maybe they'll get a little bit more capital out of the, investment of the property itself. But that's kind of, that's kind of part of the home pricing mosaic, right? It's always the underlying cost against rates. Rates go flying higher, and all of a sudden the offers start coming in a little bit lower. It's like, okay, we'll sell this cheaper because we know the mortgage people can't afford to pay the mortgage rate. So I think there's a give and take there. And I'm not an expert at it by any means, but I know how to follow that trade and stay in it. That's all I can claim.
Yeah, fair enough. Jim asking, by the way, Dominus is sitting in Orsay. I think I said that right. Orsay, Granada, in a cave. I don't know if you're actually in a cave or it's Granada in a cave, but Granada is very beautiful. So welcome. Thank you for sharing. Jim asking, do you have any thoughts on energy or nat gas at these levels?
So no, other than they're great for business right now, right? Like nat gas is kind of, whatever. It's 2.5, 3.5 in the last couple of months. The price of gasoline is $3 at the pump. As long as there's no supply side inventory shock story coming in crude oil or natural gas, I'm not really looking at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm really comfortable with energy risk too, as you know. And it's just not presenting a trade to me at all. Like energy stocks aren't trending. The crude oil market, if you can make a case that crude oil is just trending lower, although it's not a very steep trend, it is trending lower. And I think that's the way it's going to continue. There's plenty of crude oil. There's plenty of refined products out there. Natural gas, I'll be honest with you, Maggie, it's been sideways and off my radar screen for so long. I don't really know the backdrop right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of one of the things where if it lands on my radar screen, I'll say, oh shit, I got to figure out what's going on in natural gas now because it's so far off of my radar screen. So
yeah. Well, you're looking for the opportunity. So amongst the many that you talked about, what is the risk that you're most concerned about here? Or are you just feeling pretty positive across the board? Or what do you think is vulnerable? Like, what are you worried about on your dashboard?
Well, at first I thought NVIDIA was going to be a little bit of a risk, right? That the stock broke out for the second time. It got all of that market cap attention again. And then it kind of failed and faded back right away, right below the moving averages after having a little bit of a topping pattern. I was worried about that. And Oracle just rearranged the chart back into a bull market trend. So I guess I could throw that idea out the window. I was very concerned that we might have had some hot PPI or CPI that might have spiked rates this week. I could throw that out the window now. So next on my list is an asteroid.
Let's go. Let's hope that doesn't happen. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
An asteroid is now the bear case. If you are bearish and if you're going home short tonight, literally you're praying for an asteroid. There's no other way for you to get out, given what we know right now.
I'm gonna squeeze one more in from Dominus, our man in Spain, or lady in Spain, I'm not sure. Is steel stocks looking for ongoing legs? I think it's a little bit shorthand, but are you looking at steel at all?
No, I'm really not. I mean, I am paying attention to XME, which is, one of the top 3 stocks on the board, top 3 sectors on the board. But no, I haven't looked at US Steel in a long time. I haven't looked at AK Steel in a long time. I mean, US Steel just had a massive move from 40 to 55. Let me just look at one more chart before I answer. I mean, no, so I haven't been studying them. I'm kind of still obsessed with XME. Yeah, like there hasn't been that much action in steel stocks, and I don't think that there's been that much action in steel, the processed commodity. So I'm really not focused on that. I mean, XME Metals and Mining definitely has some steel makers in it, but I think it's being mostly propelled by metals and mining, by gold and precious metal stocks right now. Sorry.
Yeah, and those miners have been unbelievable.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Uranium miner, yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Tony, always so fun to catch up with you. Thank you so much. Before we let you go, why don't you give us a recommendation? We're trying to end on a light note because, gosh, there's so much. And I know a lot of you commenting on some of the headlines coming in. There's been more violence in the U.S. and it's heavy sometimes what we have to read and go through. So what's a good recommendation? What's giving you a little bit of joy or keeping you sane these days?
Baseball. I do look forward to looking back. So that is the enjoyment part. That's not the question you asked before, but yeah, that's what's been keeping me sane after muddling through the tape all day and dealing with some of the most horrific headlines and things that my eyes have had to witness in the last 2 days, literally of my life. And so it's like kind of just take the dog for a walk after the close, try to clear your head, and then, come home and eat dinner to some Yankee baseball and kind of escape that world where all that horror is going on and live in your own for a little while.
It's important to do that. By the way, don't be mad, but Bo said go Sox. So you can pick your team, but
that's fair. That's totally fair. I love the competition. A few of my favorite baseball players are Red Sox.
Yeah, we can't. It's a great rivalry for the ages. What about a tangible recommendation? What do you got? We've had some drink ones, but what do you got?
Yeah, I went to one of the best restaurants I've been to in 10 years, Red Hook Tavern. I finally made it to Red Hook, Brooklyn.
I've been there.
Yeah, it took my family this summer, and oddly enough, here's the wild part, Maggie. This place has been written up all over the place in New York as the best burger place in New York, like superlatively the best, right? The wild connection is that the gentleman named Billy Durnan that runs the place is my daughter's college roommate's dad.
No way.
Yeah, in a bizarre coincidence, right? So he runs this place, got us a table. We went and had the Red Hook Tavern burger, and I have no problem calling it the best burger I've ever had anywhere. But everything else on the menu was equally original, awesome, and beautifully crafted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you read a menu and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to order. Like, I didn't even want to order the burger, but that's what I went there for. So I had to. There were 9 other things that I'm dying to try on the menu. Everything we had was a 10.
I love it. Is that it's been there a while? It's kind of like old school. Am I thinking of the right place? Like sort of near the water
Yes, it's right near the water. It is a regular corner bar in Brooklyn. Like, it's very nice. It's done beautifully inside. Lovely tavern look, very comfortable. But it's got some of the best food that I've ever had. I can't wait to go back.
Amazing. Yeah. If I remember, it's the right place. It has a really cool vibe. And I think it's been in a neighborhood that's sort of goes back to the old Red Hook.
Yeah. It's pretty historic and cool.
Yeah.
It's very, it's very nautical type of neighborhood in Brooklyn. And it's got an old school flavor. The whole neighborhood is awesome.
Yeah, I haven't eaten there, but I threw back some drinks there long ago, so it tells you. But great stuff. I'm gonna have to go back, Tony. Thank you so much. If anybody goes, tell Billy Tony sent you. Fantastic stuff.
Make some time there. Make some time to go there. It's awesome.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks everybody. Thanks for the fantastic questions as usual. We love it. They were really good today. And just a reminder, we're going to release For the Record, one of our new shows tomorrow. Be sure to check it out on Substack. Michael Cow joined me for a really interesting conversation. I put it in the intro, but I'm just going to say it again live because it's worth mentioning. We're talking about peace, which seems really odd given everything that's happened just in the course of when we taped it until now. But that's why we sort of try to have conversations that are kind of not on top of mind for everybody and think about probabilities that may not happen, but what if they did? It's always a good exercise. And it was a really fascinating conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. I really did. Michael's always really thought-provoking to catch up with.
Maggie, if I could throw one thing in.
Yeah.
My one promo that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
We have been running a $99 1-month trial at the Navigator at tgmacro.com, and we've gotten a great response. So I just wanted to announce that here in case people are interested in a trial of the Navigator. It's $99 for a month, and then you can purchase the Navigator at the regular price.
Awesome. Fantastic stuff, especially given the conversation we just had. As always, you can always find links for Tony's Navigator in the description on all of our platforms. So go check it out. The guy's the best.
I'll give you a link for that promo, and I appreciate it.
And we're going to have something to tease later, but we're not going to talk about it now. But Tony and I are going to do something fun next year. So we'll be filling you in on that as well. But fantastic stuff. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your Wednesday evening. We'll see you Friday. In the meantime, take care and good luck out there.